Hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to another live Manchester United news, takeover news, transfer news, and general just news discussion show on the channel where we're going to be discussing the latest news with you guys. I'm going to have a bit of a rant about Manchester United and how badly their club is run. Fernandez set to leave for about £8 million. We're going to dive into how bad Manchester United's outgoings and operations are at the club. Ten Hag's actually called out Antony, Martial and Antony in his press conference, and he's basically called out Martial for not training hard enough. So it'll be interesting to see if a Sancho 2.0 situation kind of happens there. I don't think Martial's going to react like Sancho is, because apparently Martial wants to stay at United and fight for his future. Martinez and Casemiro are back. Bosh, big news. We're going to be talking about Spurs game, the expected lineup, what's United's lineup when everybody is fit, some updates on the takeover, Brailsford, some things that Brailsford has already done that's been leaked from behind the scenes as well. Interesting information and that to dive into, just among more news. So please do hit that like button if you haven't already. And of course, subscribe down below if you're new as well. I saw this comment here saying Ten Hag is a wrecking ball. He's going to set the club back half a decade with his stupid signings. And I think people have got to remember, while Ten Hag signings haven't been the best, while some of the players were selling under Ten Hag, I don't agree with, ultimately, this wouldn't be happening if we had proper people in place. This isn't what we can be blaming the manager for. Yes, Ten Hag has a say. Yes, Ten Hag will have a choice. But if there were competent people at the top of the club that were actually doing the decisions, they wouldn't be letting Ten Hag spend 85 million on Antony, 60 million on Mount, selling this player. That you've got to remember that Ten Hag gets all this stick for recruitment, and yes, Ten Hag has a say, but that shouldn't be Ten Hag's job to choose. There's a reason that the top football clubs have sporting director, scouts, everything. And Jesse March exposed this today. Jesse March did an interview with Ralph. So Jesse March did an interview today talking about what Ralph Rangnick had said to him about Manchester United. And Jesse March was explaining that every top club has a vision, they have an identity, they have the thing that they want to achieve, and there's pressure within everyone to achieve that. They're all on the same page, from recruiting, scouting, department, coaching, football operations. At Manchester United, they don't have a vision, they don't have a plan, they don't have an identity. So there's no pressure from within Manchester United to establish where do we want the club to go, where do we want the club to be, which is obviously what Brailsford is working on doing. But you've got to remember, at United, we don't have these operations in place. There isn't a plan, there isn't a vision, there isn't an identity, there isn't a strategic goal inside Manchester United. There's people that have roles, but they don't even know what the roles was. You know, Laurie Whitwell did that fantastic article with The Athletic, I think it was Laurie Whitwell, and they dove into information at United like, well, John Murtagh did this, but actually no one really knew what John Murtagh's role was. John Murtagh and Arnold do stuff, but there's no one at United that gets the final say on transfers. It's all a bit of everyone does this and that, but no one really knows what the defined role is other than the title and what they're meant to be doing at United. And the scouts were coming in saying that Antony is a 25 million player, so I wouldn't spend more than 30 million on him. And then someone at the club says, look, we're going to spend 85 million on Antony, and there's no one to say no, we can't be spending 85 million on that player, because Manchester United don't have the right people, the right operations in place to stop doing these awful, idiotic mistakes. And I think, Ten Hag gets a lot of stick for recruitment and all of this, but I think people need to remember this is not Ten Hag's job. Yes, he has a say. Yes, he has a veto power. But if we were run properly, if we had the right people in to begin with, if we were run like a proper club that was ambitious, that had a strategic goal, that had a good vision and wanted everyone to align and achieve that and put pressure on within to be successful on the pitch, and stop making this whole club being about commercial success and who can be the most successful club commercially, and let's begin to become a club that isn't interested in so much commercial success. Obviously, that's important, but let's actually make success on the field the priority and put pressure within everyone in the club to achieve success on the field, rather than just getting a good sponsorship deal. Maybe all of a sudden we'd see a much better Manchester United. Maybe all of a sudden there would be pressure within and people working within to say, look, we're not going to spend 85 million on Antony. We're not going to spend 60 million on Mount. We're not going to sell Garner, Elanga, Alvaro, Fernandez for peanuts and then go and just keep the likes of McTominay and Lindelof that aren't good enough. And we're going to run this club properly. And yes, Ten Hag signed something great, but the bigger problem is those above Ten Hag. And that's obviously what hopefully Ineos are coming in to slowly change and integrate, which we're going to dive into. But that is a big problem with the club, and I want to dive into that because that's going to get me into obviously the next part and information of the show that I want to get into as well. Kaz has been missing the live streams lately, sad times. Big up everybody in the chat, please do smash the like button. This club's completely lost the plot, don't want to spend big or develop youth properly either. I know the club has completely lost the plot as well. Even if he didn't call Martial out, it was quite obvious he wasn't putting the work in. To be honest, I agree. I think the fact that Martial had been dropped for like 5 weeks for illness, we all knew something was going on with Martial, and that Ten Hag's obviously kind of explained that now Martial is getting Sancho treatment. But as Alex said, the club has just lost the plot. The identity and the Man United way used to be developing youth players. The class of '92, the Man United way used to have such a big emphasis on youth, and to an extent we do. We brought in Kobe Mainoo, we brought in Garnacho, they're regularly playing for the first side. But Man United, a couple of years ago, wouldn't be selling Alvaro Fernandez to Benfica. And if Benfica want your player, big sign not to sell. But Man United, back in the day, wouldn't be selling some of their best youth prospects and keeping the players that continue underperforming and getting them 6th place, 7th place finishes where they're having consistently bad seasons. We've had 3 crap seasons in the last 5 years. McTominay's been a big part of that. Lindelof's been a big part of that. Martial's been there. Rather than keeping those players, we'd get rid of them, we'd keep the youth, try and loan them out, integrate them, then use the money we sell from selling the crap players to bring in better players, rather than selling the young players with potential on very cheap deals to balance FFP, because we've overspent elsewhere on crap players, which we've given ridiculous wages to, which we now can't sell, and we wonder why, we can't sell them, it's so difficult. Well, maybe it's your fault. Maybe it's your fault, Manchester United, that you can't sell this person or that person, because you run the club so badly. And I'm actually going to show you something in a second which generally highlights just how badly the club is run when it comes to selling young players, when it comes to development, when it comes to sales, when it comes to transfers. I'm going to show you something that generally highlights everything. Chelsea are getting stick for being run badly. There's stick, and there's people criticising Chelsea for being run badly. But Chelsea are doing, while I don't think they're spending money in the right places, they're still doing a lot better in the transfer market than Manchester United. Let me dive into this. Let me show you this here. Bear with me, I need to get it up. But this is just shows you and represents you what Manchester United is, what Manchester United is becoming. And it's this statistic here. Alvaro Fernandez, James Garner, Teden Mengi, Sedan Iqbal, and Elanga were sold for a combined 34 million. Fernandez, Garner, Mengi, Iqbal, and Elanga being sold for a combined 34 million. Chelsea get 35 million for Lewis Hall, which is a very talented young player. Lewis Hall's an incredible young player, but Alvaro Fernandez arguably has a higher ceiling than Lewis Hall, some people would argue. James Garner, fantastic Premier League level player. Teden Mengi has been at Luton 6 months, and now Fulham and Palace are looking for a 20 million deal for him. Sedan Iqbal, great player, maybe he'll become a Premier League level player, but obviously I guess the main are there. And Elanga. So we've got Elanga, Garner that are Premier League proven players. Mengi, that's a Premier League proven player. Alvaro Fernandez, that's wanted by Benfica, which says it all. Plus Sedan Iqbal being sold for a combined £34 million. That is 3 Premier League proven players. Alvaro Fernandez, that's wanted by Benfica. And if Benfica want your young players, that obviously speaks highly of your own player. And Sedan Iqbal being sold there for Lewis Hall, that's not really started a proper game for Newcastle yet and played 6 or 7 first-team games for Chelsea. Lewis Hall's a fantastic guy, but that just shows you how bad we are at selling. That just shows you how bad Manchester United is run. You also got to add in that Kovar we got 7.5 million for. Dean Henderson we got 15 million pounds for. Ethan Laird, yes, he had injury trouble, but we think we got 600k for Ethan Laird. Mark Sherrado, one of the most talented right backs we stole from Barcelona. Yes, he was homesick. I think apparently we sold him for 80k. 80k. That doesn't even pay half of Antony's weekly wages. You look at what Man United are selling. We let Brave go for free. And a lot of these players that we sold weren't good enough to ever be United players. But we still could have got 3-4 times more for them. We should have got 20 million for James Garner. We got 9, potentially raising to 14 million in add-ons. But we should have got 20, rising to 25 million add-ons. If we were a proper club, we'd have got 15 million for Teden Mengi. We'd have got 10 million for Sedan Iqbal. And we could have got 20-30 million for Elanga. We probably could have got 25 million for Elanga. And Alvaro Fernandez, I'd accept 20 million for him. But we're going to be selling Alvaro Fernandez for 7 million, James Garner for 9 million, Teden Mengi for less than 1 million, Sedan Iqbal for less than 1 million, Elanga for just under 15 million. Combined 34 million, but Chelsea get 35 million for Lewis Hall. Man City get 40 plus million for Lavia, 40 plus million for Cole Palmer. Man City got 20 million for James Trafford that have been playing in League One But Kova, who had a fantastic loan spell, 7 million. Dean Henderson, Premier League proven goalkeeper, 15 million. Man City get more money for their League One keeper that's gone out on loan and is not completely proven than Man United do for an actual proven Premier League goalkeeper. We are selling our young players, which is unacceptable. If the young players aren't good enough for the club, we can sell them. And some of the players aren't, and we need to sell them. But it's the price and value we're selling them for. Would you rather see James Garner or Scott McTominay in a Man United shirt right now? Because I think most people in this video would say they'd rather see James Garner having a go in midfield in a Man United shirt right now than Scott McTominay. Let me know down below. James Garner, Scott McTominay. Who would you want to see? Would you rather see Pellistri or Antony on the right-hand side? Now, I'm not saying Pellistri is going to be good enough to be Man United level, and I'm not saying that James Garner is going to be good enough to be Man United level either, but I would rather see James Garner when he was here and Pellistri given a run to assess if they're good enough for United or not, and given a chance, and then maybe sold for a bit more money than we're probably going to sell them for, then continue to go with McTominay Antony and sell the youth because we're going to just consist with McTominay, consist with Antony, continue playing them even though we're not good enough rather than take a risk. Would you rather see Alvaro Fernandez or Malacia? Malacia's been injured, but Alvaro Fernandez will probably become a better player than Malacia. James Garner will probably, and you could arguably say right now, is a better player than Scott McTominay. Ted Mengi had his injury, so I understand why we sold him, but we sold him for 1 million. Ted Mengi is now being worth 20 million looking at Fulham, looking at Crystal Palace, and you look at his talent and his ceiling, he could have been used for us with all the injuries we've had. Not that he'd have a chance, so I'm glad that he's gone to Luton and proven himself, but he has been one of Luton's best players. He's been phenomenal in the Premier League this season. Sedan Iqbal, I get it was with Maino coming through, he wasn't going to get the minutes. But again, would you rather see Sedan Iqbal or McTominay? Considering when McTominay played in pre-season and Sedan Iqbal played in pre-season that last season, who looked a lot better? Sedan Iqbal. And right now, I understood where we sold Elanga, but I always said 25 million sell Elanga, 25 million sell Elanga, 15 million we sell Elanga for, 15 million. Arsenal sold Iwobi, who was way worse than Elanga, to Everton for like 30 million or something. Let me check how much Arsenal got for Iwobi. Iwobi is Arsenal's version of Elanga, but worse. So yeah, Everton paid 30 million for Iwobi in 2019. So that's probably about 35 million now. But United get 15 million for Elanga. Just explains that. And I did a little rant and I said these players are already worth more than double what we sold them for. Instead of selling our best young talent on the cheap to try and raise money to balance FFP, maybe it's time we sell the likes of Lindelof, McTominay and Antony instead. Because right now, would I rather see Mengi or Lindelof? Lindelof's scared of defending. I'd rather see Mengi. Would I rather see James Garner or McTominay? I'd rather see James Garner. Would I rather see Alvaro Fernandez or Malacia? I'd rather see Alvaro Fernandez. Would I rather see Elanga or Antony? I'd rather see Antony. Not saying that these players we've sold are good enough, and I'm not saying that I think, Alvaro Fernandez had the potential to be good enough. I think James Garner's an improvement on what we have, but who knows if they'll be United level. But let's be honest, if we were a proper club, we could have got, 20 million for Fernandez, 25 million for Garner, that's 45 million. 10 million for Mengi because of his injuries, 55 million. 10 million for Iqbal, 65 million. And at least 25 million for Elanga. We could have maybe got 90, nearly 100 million for all these players had we got Manchester City or Chelsea as our name. Manchester City or Chelsea probably would have got 100 million for these players we sold for 34 million. Probably would have. And I think it just sums up how bad United is run and how embarrassingly poor business is at Manchester United. I'm fed up of it as well. Left back is becoming an issue for us, mental to sell Alvaro. And the thing is, and it's been said, I've seen a few other people say this, Benfica are probably one of the best teams, if not arguably the best team out there with Dortmund, with Ajax, at picking out young talent for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 million quid and then selling them in a few years for 70, 80, 90 million quid. If Benfica are willing to invest 10 million euros in your young left back, who, bear in mind, was under 23's player of the season. We gave Maino under 18, Alvaro Fernandez under 23 player of the season. Alvaro Fernandez, Garnacho and Maino were the three best academy players. If you're not familiar with Alvaro Fernandez, listen to this. Fernandez, Maino, and of course Garnacho, they were the three standout academy players. That's, last season and the season before, obviously, because Alvaro was sort of missing a bit. he was the standout player with Maino, with Garnacho. Maino and Garnacho are instant starters for Manchester United. This guy, obviously, with Luke Shaw's injury record, with Malassia's injury record, could probably better than Reguilon, probably better than Delo at left back. Sell. If Benfica want your young player, it speaks a lot of volume, because Benfica only signed some of the most talented youth. Benfica signed young players that they know have got a high ceiling. So if Benfica are going in for your player, that's a sign of, let's keep this guy, loan him out development and use him in the squad in a few years, rather than selling him to Benfica on the cheap and probably going to spend 60 million in a few years on him. Maybe we'll do a buyback clause. Maybe we'll assert a great sell-on clause. But if we actually sell him for 8 million quid, embarrassing. Where's Lindelof being sold? Where's McTominay being sold? Martial's still at the club. Antony shouldn't be here as well. It's just ridiculous. I do want to scroll through the chat as well. Anyone can see Alvaro is a talented player. He's tall and physical as well. It's baffling letting him go. I'm still fuming inside that the fans sit on our arse and watch the Glazers use Sir Jim to stay at the club and continue to train as well. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm happy that Sir Jim's coming in and making the footballing changes that need to be made, but we need to remember this Glazers out message, full sale message, because the problem with the Sir Jim deal, the biggest problem for me, is that there's no clause in that deal to say that Sir Jim's ever going to own 100% and buy out all the Glazers shares. So we don't know how long the Glazers is going to be here, and we can't let that message go quiet. You're all right as well. Alvaro has a bright future as well. Ghana, I'd have ahead of Scott Eriksson or Amrabat right now, and I think most people would agree. Big up everybody joining in the chat. I'm just catching up with the live chat. We've got 300 people watching. Let's see if we can get 100 likes. If 1 in 3 of you can hit that like, it would be great. Alvaro's at Granada, but he's going to be recalled and sent to Benfica as well. Even in the Championship, you could see Ghana doing bits against Premier League clubs and cup competitions. I remember Nottingham Forest. He played Leicester, who were having a good season before they were relegated. He played against Arsenal, and did he play against Liverpool? And I remember him having 3 good games against Premier League opposition at age 20 in the FA Cup. I tell you what, McTominay, when he plays against a big side, overrun, ghost, hide from the ball. Ghana looked fine with it. Now, Ghana isn't Everton's best midfielder, but there's more of a player in Ghana than there is in Scott McTominay right now. I will say that as well. United keep players who sell shirts, not based on performance on the pitch. It does feel like that as well. Alice, if you had to choose 3 players for United to sign this summer, who would you choose? 3 players? That's hard. That's really... I mean, if we're being like FIFA, then it'd be like Tchouaméni, Mbappe. But if we're being realistic, I'd probably go for either Elise or Nico Williams at right wing. Diamond at centre-back would be brilliant, but I think that's unrealistic. So I'd probably go with Todibo because I just think he's out of budget. And then that would be a midfielder. I like João Neves, but I think we need someone that can play as a 6. I would try and go all out for Tchouaméni and see what we could do, because we do buy players off Real Madrid. If not, I would go for a Matt Swiefer, Amadou Onana type player. But I don't know if Amadou Onana is quite ready yet, but I do think he'd be a good partner for Kobbie Mainoo. Shaw is aging, becoming injury prone again. Malassia's injury is far from proven. We could have used Alvaro. 100% agree. 60 likes, people, so keep getting involved with the like. Ineos and Jim haven't done anything yet, so we've got to wait and see. Yeah, Ineos, to be fair, Gaz here, but to be fair to Ineos and to Sir Jim, they actually can't do anything until, obviously, the takeover is ratified with the Premier League. So you might be saying, where's Paul Mitchell? Where's Dan Ashworth? They can't appoint them. They can't start official contact to appoint them until obviously the deal and the takeover is approved by the Premier League. So that is actually why we've got no movement from Ineos and that so far. But in a year's time, Ineos have got to show us something there. It's all talk. It's all brilliant, Jim. It's all talk. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to change this. We're going to change that. We're going to bring United to the top. Dan Ashworth, Paul Mitchell. I'm not interested in making money out of United. I'm not interested in making money out of United because Ineos bring us so much money. I want success on the pitch, visiting Old Trafford, doing speeches, bringing in Brailsford. Brilliant speeches, brilliant this, brilliant that, brilliant ideas, but actions speak louder than words. Now, I'm not saying I expect to see Manchester United winning a title in a year's time, because that's not realistic. But over the next 2 to 3 years, I need to see an improved structure, an improved way, an improved vision. Because I tell you what, in 2-3 years' time, we'll be looking at Ineos and saying, are we still in this big fat mess, or have Ineos made the right changes? And the big question mark is, everyone was saying Blanc's coming in as United CEO. Everyone under the sun, every reliable source was saying Blanc is coming in as the Manchester United CEO. Then we have reports saying the Glazers have got to approve the CEO. It's unlikely to be Blanc. While Sir Jim Ratcliffe has these great ideas, staff and people at United were leaking this information. This is information that was being leaked from Manchester United. Sergeant Ratcliffe came and spoke to the staff. The staff believe that he is really ambitious about making Manchester United a top-achieving club again, but because he only owns 25% of the club and the Glazers are still in majority control, those within United, despite Sergeant Ratcliffe's great speeches, were very cautious that Ratcliffe wouldn't be able to do a lot of the things he said he wanted to do. Ratcliffe came in, he slammed the Glazers, he slammed the club, he said he was going to do this, this and that, but those within the club are already leaking to the media, well, this was great, they're worried that Ratcliffe won't be able to do that because they know the Glazers are still here, they know the Glazers have majority power. And I think that's something that's not sort of spoken about as well. And I think, actions speak louder than words. I think that's the biggest thing as well. When Ten Hag came at United, he didn't know that Alvaro Fernandez even existed. A director of football should talk to him. Malacia, Antony, yeah. I mean, look, a proper director of football wouldn't be letting him go unless it was for at least 20 million plus when they thought, you know what, we could use this money. The thing is, let's say we got 20 million for Alvaro Fernandez in January and we put that towards getting Tordebo on a £38 million deal in January because he was in the 5-year plan. That's a little bit different. But why are we selling a guy if we know we're not going to buy him in January? It's not like we're selling to buy because we know it's just going to be loan deals or probably nothing in the January window. So, it's a little bit different if it's very obvious that United are selling to buy or United have this big plan this or United have this big plan that. But it's like, well, we're selling, but what is the plan? What is the vision? Why are we selling if we're not going to sign anyone? We don't desperately need the money, and this isn't a player that we actually should actively looking to sell. Look, if a 40 million offer came in for if a 40 million pound offer came in for McTominay in January, I'd say, you know what, go and sell McTominay for 40 million in January because this is good value. If someone said, look, we'll give you 40 million for Alvaro Fernandez in January, fair enough. But selling a guy for about 7 million quid, who is arguably our most talented youth player with the likes of Kobbie Mainoo, with the likes of Garnacho, I think it's crazy. Kobbie Mainoo actually came out earlier today and he was asked to share one tip about being a young player, and he said always watch the senior players closely and pick up things from their game and try and replicate itself. Talking of young players, absolutely love Kobbie Mainoo. We do have some positive news to dive into, and that is Sancho and Martial's return, Sancho and Martial being back and all of that. So I do want to dive into that so I'm not completely ranting this whole video, but please do hit that like button if you haven't already. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. 300 people in, I do want to hit the likes up as well. But someone said Kobbie Mainoo shouldn't be watching the Man United senior players because they're all crap. But Erik Ten Hag has called out Antony Martial. I do want to get this up on the screen. I do want to talk about the Ten Hag Martial situation because there's a little bit more info I want to dive into above and beyond what's sort of been said publicly about Antony Martial and a few interesting bits of information as well. It was just said, by the way, that Jadon Sancho's side excludes nothing. There's no option to buy, but the possibility of Jadon Sancho staying at Dortmund is not ruled out. The future depends on Jadon Sancho's future depends on Erik Ten Hag, among others. And if Sancho wants to stay in Dortmund, he would have to make concessions in terms of salary. Borussia Dortmund could realistically play a transfer fee of 30 to 35 million euros. So they're saying if Jadon Sancho's loan goes really, really well, he wants to go back to Dortmund and stay in Germany and is willing to cut his wages, United could get 30 million for Jadon Sancho. And at this rate, I think I'd bloody take 30 million for Jadon Sancho. We could have got 45 million for him in the summer. He don't want to play for us. Even if Ten Hag goes, you can't bring back a player that refused to play for 4 months. I assume that we'll probably get a bit of money for Jadon Sancho come summer, hopefully. I really hope that Jadon Sancho is brilliant at Dortmund and we get some money for him and sell him, because I think that's the easiest case scenario. But we'll talk about Sancho in a second. I do want to talk about Erik Ten Hag calling out the likes of Antony Martial and other information and rumours that have come out on this situation. So Erik Ten Hag, this is kind of a Sancho 2.0, but Erik Ten Hag kind of said on Martial, he's not fit. We want players to be fit in this moment, and he is not. We have to make him fit. It's his job as well. So just like Jadon Sancho, how he was dropped for not being fit enough, he's saying Martial's been dropped because he's not fit enough. He's essentially not training hard enough, not reaching the levels, I guess is what the expectation is. And he's saying that Martial's not been selected the last 5-6 weeks of matches because he's not been fit. He's been ill. Maybe he's been ill and his fitness has gone down. But there was some reports, rumours and suggestions that Erik Ten Hag has grown frustrated with Martial, his body language and his lack of attitude, lack of sort of, what's attitude, like his attitude and lack of effort in training. There was a report that I read, which I would take with a pinch of salt, because I don't know what its source of information was, but someone was suggesting that essentially Martial's fed up that he's not playing and he's not getting minutes over Højlund and he's kind of knows his United career is over, so he's sort of just not really bothering as much in training and not been up to the levels, and that Ten Hag's obviously recently now just called him out for that in the press conference. Whether that's the case or not, again, take it with a pinch of salt. But I think it's sort of becoming a Sancho 2.0 situation where he's saying at the moment he's not fit. We have to make him fit. It's his job as well. I guess he's had injuries, I guess he's had illness, but Ten Hag doesn't see Martial as match fit now. He's got to step up a level and stuff. And to be honest, I'm at the point with Martial where he frustrates me and I kind of want him gone and I kind of want some money. But I'm at the point where would I rather Martial be our second striker to the end of the season, or would I rather us waste some money on Choupo-Moting? I'd probably rather Martial play than Choupo-Moting, which people might be surprised by. So let's hope Martial sorts himself out, gets his attitude right, plays for us, is here to the end of the season, then leaves on a free, and then we can get a good striker in the long term, rather than doing Choupo-Moting, Girassi, Donny Marlin style deal. But obviously, Antony was also called out by Erik ten Hag in his press conference as well. But Erik ten Hag sort of had a more protective view of Antony. Ten Hag said that the allegations against Antony have affected his performance and did start to make excuses for Antony's poor performances, saying that it wasn't always Antony's fault because of the allegations around him, which I didn't like. I think you need to stop making excuses for Antony. But Ten Hag did say, at the moment, Antony is not fit and we want players to be fit. We have to make him fit. It's his job. Not his job as well. He said that he has to do better. So I was reading the Martial bit. But Ten Hag said on Antony, he has to do better. He has to deal with that. He has to do better. So while Ten Hag did make excuses for Antony, he did publicly come out and say, Antony's got to deal with that and do better. We know things have had an impact on him, but he has to do better. Definitely as well. Ten Hag did go into more detail about Antony and said, look, he's had his off-field issues. He was okay. He was okay in his first year. Pre-season was okay. First few games were decent. He started saying in the game against Spurs he was good but didn't deliver, which I think is absolute BS. I think he was crap in that game against Spurs. And I think that's why a lot of people wanted Sancho to play. And maybe that's one of the reasons Sancho was dropped when he wasn't playing, is because Antony was like watching, awful. Ten Hag does sit there and makes a lot of excuses for Antony, how he's going to come good and as a good player there. But Ten Hag did again with Martial and with Antony, called them out, said they've not been good enough. They need to do better. They need to step up a level. It's on them. So, I mean, I'm glad that Ten Hag's called people out. Hopefully they won't just drop and cry about it like Sancho did, eh? I'm just going to take a quick swig of water. Is Erik ten Hag himself fit? Well, he doesn't need to be as fit, does he? Because he's not going to be playing. I mean, he'll probably do a better job than some of our players as well. Rod Gear at City is the profile player we need to go for. Man United, the man is a model professional and still disciplined. I'm assuming you mean Rodri. Rodri would be absolutely ideal. We're never going to get Rodri, but I think we need a player like Rodri. I agree. I'd bring in another 9, at least to offer something different. Martial offers nothing, says Alex. Partly true. Rashford must score. Hopefully we've got Rashford back on the left wing playing well. I thought Rashford was good in the first half versus Wigan, but then the second half he was frustrating and he was going back to his old Rashford where he was overthinking anything as well. Don't expect Martial to straighten up after all these years, but maybe he will for a new contract. There's a feeling that Martial just wants to stay at United and get a new contract because he knows he's not going to get his wages or anywhere near his wages anywhere else or at any other club as well. As Daniel said, do smash the like button. Martial's never fit. He's filled the Phil Jones, Eric Bailly role now, and it does sort of feel like that as well with Martial. United need players that can contend in every position and create healthy competition within the squad, kind of like Garnacho has done with Rashford this year, stopping player power. Spot on, Kaz. Spot on. And this is what I say. A lot of people, I think the best way to get elite depth is not by buying players for your bench. It's buying players that would put your starters on the bench. People are saying, do we need Todibo? We've got Varane, we've got Martinez. But if you've got Lindelof to come off the bench when one of your centre-backs is injured, or Johnny Evans to come off the bench, who has been very good lately when one of your centre-backs is injured, or Varane can come off the bench when one of your centre-backs is injured, you're instantly in a stronger place. Let's say we signed Todibo this season and Martinez got injured. We're down to Todibo and Varane at the back. Or Todibo and Evans, maybe. But, we were playing games with Maguire and Lindelof. Massive difference. That you want to buy players that are going to put someone on the bench. We want to buy a midfielder that's going to put Eriksen on the bench. We want to buy another midfielder that could even put Maino on the bench, as good as he's been. We want to buy a striker that could put Højlund on the bench, and that's how you get elite bench depth. Phil Foden's a very good player, but he is always on the bench for Manchester City. Jesus Sterling used to be on the bench a lot. Players that would start for this United starting 11. If you want to be the best club, your best 11. Let's look at Manchester United's best 11 here. I'll get this up here. Let's get Manchester United's best 11 up, and let's get up how we can improve this, because Reports suggest Todibo prefers Liverpool over us. That is a report coming out that I'm going to dive into. I'm going to dive into some more Todibo and Sancho news in just a second, because there's some interesting information coming out on Todibo. But sort of diving into Manchester United, if we want to be a top team, we've got to look at our strongest lineup, which would probably be right now Garnacho here, with Ahmad maybe slowly being integrated and seeing how he does, because I want to assess Ahmad. Rashford here, and then it would probably be Bruno. I mean, let me know what you think our best squad is, but I think our best starting 11 would be Bruno, Maino, Casemiro. And of course, I think Dalot would suit more games, but I think Wan-Bissaka for some games, Dalot for other games. Doesn't really matter, but I think if we're playing a single pivot in midfield with 2 8s, Dalot has the ability to invert, which might help with just midfield balance, which is, I think, why he'll be picked by Ten Hag. But if we look at what Man United's best starting 11 is, and I think most of us can agree, you can maybe debate, should Garnacho play left, Ahmad play right, but he's not played. You could maybe debate Mason Mount, you can maybe debate Wan-Bissaka. But realistically, I think most people believe that this is probably Manchester United's best or strongest starting 11. So how do Man United become a good club? We got to sell play. We got to sign someone that's going to put Casemiro on the bench. So let's say by miracle we sign Tchouaméni. Never going to happen. But if we sign Tchouaméni, instantly Casemiro's on the bench. If we didn't sign Tchouaméni and Casemiro gets injured, it's McTominay. So we've gotten from having McTominay as our substitute midfielder to Casemiro as our substitute midfielder instantly by signing someone like Tchouaméni. Do you know what I mean? If we sign, let's say, I'm putting him on the wrong side, but if we sign Elise here and Garnacho was playing left wing and Rashford was on the bench and Elise's right wing, you've got Ahmad and potentially Rashford to come off the bench. And that's much more depth. And that's something that United need to do that I don't think we utilise more as well. We need Subimendi. He's reportedly linked to Arsenal, and Arsenal are strong contenders to get him. I do want to talk about a little bit of news on Todibo. There's reports coming out that Liverpool are the strongest contenders to sign Todibo from Nice and actually could be willing to spend up to 50 million to get the guy signed, and he's really interested in working with Klopp, and he's good friends with Konate. But Manchester United has said, on the other hand, Manchester United are banking on their very good relationship with Sir Jim Ratcliffe to not allow him to go to Liverpool and him to go to United. So if Sir Jim lets a player that Ten Hag wants go to Liverpool, madness as well. Absolute madness. I have to say that. Absolute madness if he goes to Liverpool, because I tell you this now, if Todibo goes to Liverpool, not that I'm saying Todibo's the be-all and end-all, there are better centre-backs out there, but value for money and target-wise, he is our best option, I think. If Todibo ends up at Liverpool, if Todibo ends up in the Liverpool shirt, you do have to look at Ratcliffe and you have to think, well, this is your player, what are you doing? This is the guy the manager wants. You're letting him go to our arch rivals. What is going on here? You have to look at it and be like, well, yeah, that unacceptable, absolutely unacceptable as well. Major questions have to be asked 100% as well. Alice, your second channel is shaping up very well. Big up everybody who watches the main and the second channel as well. Big up everybody in the chat. Please do smash the likes and subscribe if you're new as well. Big up everybody in the chat. Interesting show today. Lots of interesting reports coming out. Manchester United should play table future in the football. It's cheaper and more tolerable than the crap they're playing right now, says Kurt. But, I mean, Man United need to do better. They need to stop selling our young players to raise funds and start selling the Lindelofs, the Antonys, the McTominays, the Martials, the Donny van der Beeks, the players that aren't good enough. That's who you need to sell. Now, talking of information, there has been information coming out on Jadon Sancho, and that is that Manchester United, that there's no decision has been made on Jadon Sancho's future. It has been confirmed no decision has yet been made on Jadon Sancho's future at Manchester United. But I think it's very obvious and should be very clear that he shouldn't come back. I don't care. Do you know what I mean? And people, how good is it Dortmund? I want Jadon Sancho to go to Dortmund and smash it, because I know there's a great player in there and he's wasted 2 years at Manchester United, and I want to see the Jadon Sancho and the talent that he was meant to be. I want him to go to Dortmund, and I want him to smash it up. But I want him to smash it up. So most importantly, Manchester United can see if they can get 30, 40 million for him in the summer and sell him on. Even if Ten Hag is sacked, even if Jadon Sancho is brilliant, Ten Hag is sacked and he wants to come back and play for Manchester United and he says he'll give us all for Manchester United. He said he'd give us all in a statement and refused to apologise and play for 4 months. As crap as Antony is, as much as I'd rather see Sancho on the right wing than Antony, We cannot, and I continue to say this, cannot let a player back that refused to play for this club for 4 months, because it does not send an appropriate message to the dressing room in the slightest. The message that sends to the dressing room is you could undermine the manager, refuse to play for this club, this badge. Wearing the Manchester United shirt should be an honour. And I don't care about your relationship with Ten Hag. I don't care if Ten Hag is a massive prat. You have the honour of wearing a Man United badge. You have the honour of being on 300k a week to play football. Put whatever it is behind you. Don't let your silly little ego get in the way. Erik Ten Hag might be a knob. He might be an idiot. He might be completely in the wrong. But Ronaldo, as much as he didn't like Ten Hag, apologised so he could play. Professionalism. Professionalism is the most important thing, and that is something we lack. It's not just about ability, it's about professionalism, it's about work rate, it's about attitude. And I hope you're brilliant at Dortmund, and I hope you have the best career in the future and all of that. But you refuse to play for this club for 4 months. No matter how bad Antony is, no matter how good you are, we cannot let you back because it's a message. We need to bring back those high standards that were once at the club when Fergie was here. Fergie would not let this happen. So I wish Jadon Sancho the best of luck, but I don't think he can come back. United haven't made a decision on his future, but I hope he does well and Dortmund buy him for 40 million. That's what needs to happen. I wish him the best, but you can't allow him back. You can't allow him back after what happened. It doesn't send a message as well. Continuing on as well, lots of other information coming out as well. Leaving all rivalry aside, what club would you go to if you had the choice? Man United or Liverpool again? The thing is, I could never go, being the Man United fan I am, if Man United and Liverpool went for me, I could never choose Liverpool over United. Being a United fan, I could never. But if I was, I don't know, a kid that was from, I don't know, Germany, and I was a Bayern Munich fan with no allegiance to England clubs, if I'm a 20-year-old and Liverpool want me and Man United want me, then yeah, you would go to Liverpool. Which it kills me to say that, because as good as United are at developing youth, you look at Liverpool, there's so much more sustainability around that club. There's so much more. Klopp is sustainable. He's a good manager. You don't know if Ten Hag's going to be there or not. There's so many chop changes at United. United's a bigger challenge. And you've got to have some balls to go to United. And United's a bigger club than Liverpool. And if you win at United, it might feel even better because of how long it's been since United win. But if you're a 20-year-old in football right now and you've got your whole career ahead and you don't support any Premier League club, you would pick Liverpool over United. And it kills me to say that. I could never pick Liverpool over United because I'm a massive Man United fan. Maybe I could pick a club that's irrelevant over United, like a Leicester. Not that you would ever pick Leicester over United because one's in the Championship. But if you're looking what's best for your career, you wouldn't go to United right now. If you are Jean-Claude Todibo, who's 24 years of age, is entering the prime of his career, and Liverpool are looking in a title race right now with Klopp, sustainable, great manager, and I mean, arguably he might get less minutes at Liverpool because they've got Van Dijk, because they've got Konate, they've got Kwanzaa coming through and Matip, but I assume Matip would be moved on and he would play. But then you could argue, well, we've got Varane, we've got Martinez. I think Todibo realistically right now would probably favour a move to Liverpool. Probably would, because it's more sustainable. He's got more chances of winning. He might be better for his career. And that will be the difficult thing. We've just got to hope that Ratcliffe goes, you know what, I'm not going to let you go to Liverpool. We've got to hope that Ratcliffe puts his foot down and won't let Todibo anywhere near Liverpool. That's sort of what we've got to hope for at the moment as well. Because I would like Todibo, and it will be a big judgment on Ratcliffe if he does go to Liverpool. Sancho, just not a serious footballer. His disciplinary record speaks for itself. Hasn't looked fit at any point since he signed either. Yeah, Sancho's had fitness issues at all the clubs he's been at. He's been reported to be late for training and had disciplinary issues at all the clubs he's been at. At City, they had problems, which is why they're willing to sell them. At Dortmund, there was times he arrived late and they obviously sort of kicked him out the squad. Dortmund complained a lot about him never coming back from pre-season fit. We know at England, there was trouble when he wasn't being picked. He had a drop. And we know at United, as Matic said, that he's arrived late and disciplinary hasn't been the best. I think as good as Sancho's talent is, right, hard work sometimes beats talent. And I think it's the message it sends. We've got to employ these high standards. We've got to employ a better mentality within the squad. And no matter how good Sancho was at Dortmund and how crap Antony is, you've got to move on Sancho to set and send a message. You can't disrespect the manager. You've got to give 100% in training. It doesn't matter how much money you make, who you are, how crap Antony is or the player playing in your position is, and how much better you are than the player playing in your position is. If you behave like a brat, you are out, because you know what? It doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter if you should be starting. If you behave like a brat, you're out. And that's the mentality United need to employ as well. Pep shipped him out because he knew that Sancho was crap. Pep doesn't tolerate loser mentality, weak mentality, says AJ as well. People saying Rashford's becoming a big problem. He's the highest earner in the dressing room. So Rashford, since signing his contract, has been a bit of a problem. I'm willing to just give Rashford time because he carried us through last season. But if we're sitting here this time next year and Rashford's been this crap for a year, he has to go in 2025, 100%. I just think we've got Antony, it's a bigger problem. I think we've got McTominay, it's a bigger problem. Lindelof's a bigger problem. We know what Rashford is capable of. We know that Rashford can be good. Rashford is, we hope he finds form. A lot of other players at United isn't about hoping they find form, because even if they find form, they're not going to be good enough. Eriksen's not going to be good enough if he finds form. McTominay's not going to be good enough if he finds form. Antony's not going to be good enough if he finds form. Lindelof's not going to be good enough if he finds form. They need to go. Rashford, if he finds form, will be good enough. But if he doesn't find form and this continues, we'll then have to go. But I think the priority right now is we've got about 10 different players that need to go. Let's get the players that, even if they find form, will not be good enough for United out first. Then we think about the older players, if we're going to get the older players out. And then we think about the Rashfords, is he going to find form or not as well? Young players should go to Villa or Brighton right now. Yeah, if I'm young, I would go to Brighton, Benfica, Dortmund, one of those players that they can really develop you and manage you well. If you're young, you've got your whole career ahead of you. If you're 20 and Man United are offering you 70k a week and Brighton are only offering you 10k a week, just remember, you could go to United and be on 70k a week. But you could then be there for 3 years, your contract expires and no one wants you because you're crap and you're a United flop and you can't get a club like Jesse Lingard, like David De Gea, for an example, and they're not even that bad. Or you could go to Brighton, be on 10k a week for 2 years, but then you get a massive move on your 400k a week because you've established yourself as a big player. That's what they always say. If you're a young player, Dortmund, Benfica, I think that's who you'd be looking at, and I think that's who you'd be smart to look at as well. I never wanted Sancho, but Ten Hag's handling of Sancho was a joke. Sancho now turned into a hate figure for kids. I don't think it was a joke. I think that maybe it was a bit harsh, but I think when you understand how many disciplinary issues Manchester United had, particularly under Ralph Rangnick and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, there was a reason why Ten Hag wanted to be so strict, wanted to be so harsh on Sancho to send a message. You know, he dropped Rashford, he dropped Garnacho for being late, he's dropped Ronaldo for disciplinary issues. Ten Hag's message very much was, I'm going to drop players and send a message. If players aren't reaching my high standards in training, if players aren't coming with the right attitude or mentality, I'm going to drop them. I'm going to send a message because I need to instill this new mentality at United of harder working players, sort of is what it seemed to be as well. Ineos need to be ruthless. Anyone not in long-term plan who can't take us to the top needs to go, says Alex. I agree 100% as well. Big up everybody in the chat. Happy birthday to the people whose birthday is coming up as well. Big up to Declan. Big up to everybody in the chat. Do hit the like button as well. United is an expire club. It does feel like that. Wages are the problem with many sales. Sancho and Antony is somewhat sellable, but the wages are ridiculous. And that's why Maguire didn't go. We would have got just over 30 million for Maguire in the summer, but his wages were so ridiculous he didn't leave. We could have got 30 million for Maguire, which would have allowed us to bring in Todibo. But unfortunately, it's what happened as well. Harsh treatment. He gave Sancho 3 months to sort himself out. He repaid the gaffer by showing up late and not training properly. Exactly. When you look at Ten Hag's point of view, he gave Sancho 3-4 months out to try and get back to his best. Sancho wasn't working to the levels. Ten Hag dropped him, then showed him why he was dropped. Sancho thought, you idiot, went and called Ten Hag a liar publicly on social media, refused to apologise and said, you know what, I'd rather not play football for 4 months, even though we missed 3 months of football last season, than apologise to the manager. So I get to the extent you've got to throw him in with the youth. You've got to keep him away from the first team because this guy might not be a good influence on the first team. This guy's attitude might not be good for the first team. So I get to an extent as well. I get to the extent. So I think Ten Hag sort of did what had to be done as well. A club will gamble 30 million on Sancho right now. Antony, not so much, just to come good to help with FFP. I understand sort of maybe Ineos wanting to give Antony another season, another 18 months to see if he can become good next season. Ten Hag's making the excuse with his issues. And I've always said this with Antony. We haven't seen the best of Antony because we're playing football that's completely different to the way that gets the best out of Antony. I don't think Antony's good enough. When we signed Antony, I knew he wasn't going to be an 85 million signing, but I said he's young, he could become good. I'm excited for this signing, but I think he wasn't worth more than 40 million. I made that very clear. Right now, Antony's first season was decent. He showed spells, but he wasn't good enough. This season has been crap. I think if we play the football that Ten Hag did at Ajax, where there's runners, it's positive football, and we get a sustainable structure in place and system in place, we could see a player in Antony that might not be well beaten, but we're like, okay, there's a player in there, there's a decent player in there. And maybe we take another year to see that in Antony because we might not be able to sell him. But I would, if the opportunity's there and someone to cash in on him, I would. And because look, I think Antony's one of those signings, I'm going to say this now. He should have been a final piece of the puzzle signing, not a rebuild signing. Antony's a system player. Antony's someone you sign if the whole system's in place. You can play the way you want to do. You can bring in Antony. It's the final piece of the puzzle as a system player. He's not a rebuilding player. And the one thing about Antony that I will give him stuff on is, one, his work rate is hard. He does a lot off the ball, and he always shows for the ball and tries to get on the ball. While he does nothing on the ball, it's frustrating, takes too many touches because he's lacking confidence. At least he doesn't hide from the ball. He shows from the ball, and he defends well when he works hard. And two, with Antony, we aren't playing football that gets the best out of Antony. Do I think he's good enough? No. Do I think we should have signed him? No. But if we signed him for 40 million, would I be bothered? No. We should have. If we signed him, we signed him for 40 million. It is what it is. But we won't ever see the best out of Antony until we play a better style of football. And Ten Hag's not playing the style of football he wanted to when he brought in Antony. So maybe you could say there's a rationale for actually giving Antony one more year because we're going to play this way and we're going to see what Antony's about, and he's had off-field issues this year. But if someone comes in and says 25 million for Antony, I'd accept it. If someone came in with 20, even though we paid 85 million, that's 60 million lost in 2 years. If someone came in and said 25 million for Antony, I think I'd accept it, which does sound bad, but I don't know. Martinez needed back ASAP. Martinez could be back for the Spurs game, but United obviously don't want to rush him back as well. Antony seems the type of player that can improve with coaching out his poor habits, but not sure what's happening there. And I think, coaching needs to improve at United as well, 100% there as well. I 100% agree with you as well. The squad needs to be fit to be able to play as a squad. Well, hopefully Casemiro, Martinez coming back, Mount coming back, we'll start to see Ten Hag play his strongest 11. Ten Hag wanted to play a Maino, Casemiro, Bruno midfield three against Real Madrid in pre-season, and I assume because Real Madrid would have been our toughest game in pre-season, that was his long-term plan. So it'll be interesting to see how that does as well. Alice, you need to make a show an hour long. 45 minutes isn't enough. Well, I make my live streams. My videos are 10 minutes long, sometimes 9, sometimes 12. And then my live streams range from 40 minutes to an hour normally. But if it's a live stream, it's like a midday, it's normally half an hour. But I normally make my live streams 45 minutes to an hour. But I'm glad that you guys are liking the live streams as well. Keep smashing the likes. Do subscribe if you're new, because I do go live pretty much every single evening on the channel. I go live 6 out of 7 evenings a week, normally around 6 p.m, but we're a bit earlier today as I've got loads to pop off and do. And then we have videos that are short and come out at 11 a.m. So if you like sort of short 10-minute videos that come out during the day, that just rounds up all the news to you guys, and then in the evening you like longer shows where we discuss stuff, I get involved in the chat and we have a conversation. It's more opinion based. Do subscribe. Opinion based shows in the evening where we chit chat, round up news shows in the morning going through the news. So do subscribe if that's the kind of stuff that you like as well. United could pay 108 million for Julian Alvarez, madness as well. Antony was never an 80 million player, half at the best. And we could have got, if we'd have got Antony in June, he would have been 40 million. The reason Ajax put the price up is because Ajax lost all their players after Ten Hag and didn't want to sell him. And they thought, well, we'll price him at 100 million euros because United will never pay that. And United did. That's what it was. United did. United problems won't change, folks. Get used to it until the Glazers go. It's done. Well, the Glazers need to go. Full sale. We all want the full sale as well. Look, not a popular opinion, but still have faith in Antony. I watched Antony at Ajax and he was nowhere near as crap as he was at United. Yes, it's the Eredivisie. From watching Antony at Ajax, there was a player when, if we decided for 40 million, I'd have saying this is a risk, Eredivisie players, but he's young, he could be developed. Maybe. It is a final piece to the puzzle signing. I get it because he's a system player. There is a player at Antony when you see him in a proper system where he does stuff. And if we could see that at United, or if we could play the system with runners that would get the best out of Antony, say Antony does at United, that would be nice, because it feels horrid to say I'd sell this guy for 25 million, even though we bought him for 85 million 2 seasons ago. But that's just how I feel. I would, if we got 25 million, 30 million for Antony, out you go. Sancho's going before Antony, Pellistri's going before Antony. Look how many right wingers have gone before Antony. Alanga, Sancho, and Pellistri will go before Antony, which is, it does feel like absolute madness as well. We should get Todibo this window, who'll join another club. Hopefully Ratcliffe won't let that happen, and I think Nice want to keep Todibo to the end of the season because they're technically in a title race as well. Mental issues can mean anything. Psychological, that takes your mind off football and distracts one's performance on the pitch. 100%, and I do think there are issues that might have distracted Antony as well. Maybe you should move Antony to the left. I think it simplifies game. I think that would help him. The problem with Antony is he's so one-footed and predictable. Garnacho's been playing on the right wing and he's been causing so many problems because he can go both ways. Everyone knows what Antony's going to do. He's going to cut inside, and if he can't cut inside, he takes loads of touches, he slows down the game, and then the other team have all their players back and behind the ball as well. But listen, people, please do smash that like button. Please do subscribe down below if you're new. I'm going to wrap up today's live stream, but it's been a really good show. Lots of people involved. I will be back tomorrow at about 5 p.m. as well, live, or actually maybe not, because I might be out tomorrow. I'll let you know. But make sure you subscribe, post notification bell on so you know when I'm live, when you know when I have videos. Thank you everyone for watching. See you next time. Bye.